a number of high-profile individuals would be facing grand jury indictments based on this information. Now, it goes back to the rule of law. If we don't have a rule of law in place that's similar, fair, across the board for everybody, as opposed to what it is and has been, the have and the have-nots, the haves being the globalists and the have-nots being the rest of us, 99% of us, if we don't go back to that, the country's shot. It's over.
Gold and silver markets moved sideways to slightly down this Thanksgiving week. The gold spot price looks to be closing around $1,225 per troy ounce. Silver is likely going to end the week down a dime per ounce, closing near a $14.35 silver spot price level. This week's guest is an outspoken political analyst. His insights and contacts in the political sphere should give us listeners a deeper understanding of what is at stake with the Trump administration closing this year and moving into 2019. While we often do not focus on politics on this channel, U.S. economic policy stemming from the executive branch of the U.S. federal government often has direct ramifications on both the broad financial and precious metal markets. Pericles, a Greek statesman from 5th century BC, is attributed with having said the following: "Just because you do not take an interest in politics doesn't mean politics won't take an interest in you." And also he said, "Freedom is the sure possession of those alone who have the courage to defend it." Before we get into our discussion with this week's guest, a friendly reminder to our listeners that our sponsor, SD Bullion, is throwing a big Black Friday sale on various precious metal bullion products for holiday shoppers. Constitutional silver coin buyers can also qualify for the chance to win a 1-ounce American Gold Eagle coin or various other silver bullion product prizes. Visit sdbullion.com for more information on this current Black Friday and Cyber Monday sale to come. And finally, unlike the following Perth Mint free silver coin offer about to end, we will be right back.
SD Bullion and Australia's famed Perth Mint are offering silver investors a free 2019 Perth Mint Silver Kangaroo coin. Only while supplies last. When you purchase 24 brand new Perth Mint Silver Kangaroo coins, you'll receive the 25th silver coin for free. These 2019 silver bullion coins will come officially sealed and delivered in protective Perth Mint tubes. Visit sdbullion.com/free to claim this limited time offer.
Welcome to this week's Metals and Markets Wrap. I'm your host, James Anderson of SD Bullion. This interview is being recorded at 11 a.m. Eastern on November 21st, 2018. With us this week is a new guest to the show. He is Dr. Dave Janda of DaveJanda.com, a recently retired orthopedic surgeon, author of The Awakening of a Surgeon book, and host of Ann Arbor, Michigan's weekly radio program called the Operation Freedom Radio Show. Dave, it's a pleasure to have you on our show.
James, it's an honor to be with you. Thank you very much. I enjoy all the work that you do through your platform at Silver Doctors and SD Bullion.
Thank you. Appreciate that. So, Dave, you've been, as far as back as I can remember, you've been back, on the internet talking about various things from economic situations ongoing, political and such. It seems like you have a lot of expertise in politics. I want to ask you just to start, to introduce yourself to the listeners. What is it that you do, and more importantly, why do you do it?
Well, there are days I ask myself that same question, James. As you mentioned, I was an orthopedic surgeon. I was an orthopedic surgeon for 27 years, retired January 1st, 2017. The date of my retirement is important in the sense that that's when many of the onerous aspects of Obamacare kicked in, with the electronic medical records that were automatically shipped to the government. And unbeknownst to patients, I was not going to be a part of that, and I stepped away. Now, in addition to my work as an orthopedic surgeon for 27 years, I've also, over that same time period, worked in healthcare policy. In addition to being an orthopedic surgeon, my focus was on the prevention side of the equation when it came to research. So trying to prevent people from getting injured and then looking at the economic ramifications. Just one of our studies, according to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, has led to the prevention of about 1.7 million people from being injured every year and saved $2 billion in healthcare costs every year. At the time, some of our work in prevention actually got the attention of then President Ronald Reagan back in 1988, toward the end of his term, second term. He asked me to come to Washington and work with C. Everett Koop on healthcare policy. And myself and Koop and several congressmen, including Jack Kemp, who helped with healthcare policy with President Reagan, focused on trying to make the healthcare system more available, more affordable, and more quality-oriented. And many of the potential solutions we came up with in 1988, Reagan supported, but it was toward the end of his presidency, and it got shoved to the back burner with George Bush the first, Clinton, George Bush the second, and forget Obama. This was not a globalist approach to healthcare.
Right.
It was an approach of more for free markets, health savings accounts, insurance companies competing rather than colluding, selling insurance across state lines, generic drugs, going after big pharmaceutical companies. Pre-existing conditions would fall by the wayside because of these high-risk pools that we had suggested be created. The frustrating thing, James, is what we were talking about in 1988. Many people now are talking about as being the potential solutions to the problem in 2018, 30 years ago. Yeah. And the reason why they never came to fruition, and I could be very diplomatic, but as you know, I'm not a diplomat, it's because of big money, big medicine, read that AMA, big pharmaceuticals, big insurance, and big government all suppress these innovative approaches, and this is why we're in the mess we are today. I started working in healthcare policy in 88, as I mentioned, and over time, I was asked to consult in a number of different departments on healthcare issues, whether it was the Department of Treasury, and through that I got to meet people in the Secret Service, the Department of Health and Human Services, of course, the Pentagon, the Defense Department, the Treasury. And I developed this network of people. And very early on, James, I realized, and Reagan, one of the first things he actually taught me was there's really one political party. And I call it the Republicrats. And this right-left dichotomy is all about theater. It's all about having people at each other's throats so people don't realize what's really going on behind the curtain. Right. And back then, we defined it, if you will, as the deep state. That's just coming out now about the deep state and the shadow government. But it was very obvious that there was a group of people, very, very influential people, that worked the up-down axis, up being freedom, down being oppression, and their goal was to strip as much freedom from every American, every person in the world for that matter, and oppress as many people, and use the right-left axis as a false axis to divide and conquer the masses, to keep them distracted over what they were really working on. I came to realize that there were many people, there are many, many good people in the government, in every department. And there's a group of people that are focused on freedom, and there are a group of folks that are more globalist in nature. The globalists had control of the system for many, many decades. I actually took it back to as far as 1913 with the creation of the Federal Reserve and the like. Many people actually take it all the way back to the 1860s with the Civil War. Bottom line is it became very obvious that there was this group of people behind the curtain that was calling the shots. And that the people in front of the curtain, the, quote, politicians of the world, were nothing but puppets of this syndicate behind the curtain. Mm-hmm. And this is what I have tried to expose and discuss and present over all the years. And I've used my platform in medicine, in prevention, in our research that got a lot of national and international attention to kind of bring into the scope as far as what's really happening, not just in healthcare, but what's really happening to people's freedoms and liberties across the board. Mm-hmm. And as I said, this started in 88. Back in 2010, I started Operation Freedom, the radio show, which as you mentioned, broadcasts every Sunday. Folks can listen to it live, free. If they go to my website, davejanda.com, hit the upper right corner, they can listen live stream it 2 to 5. And on that show, I brought many of the people, many of the contacts that I had developed over the past 30 years to come forward. Mm-hmm. And these are people you're not going to see in the bought-off lamestream fake media. And that also includes Fox. Okay, many people believe Fox is fair and balanced at the other side of the coin. No. Let's go in the Baskin-Robbins ice cream store. They're all different types of flavors. Fox is one of those flavors. Right. The globalist ice cream store. All right. So many people believe, they're fine and everybody else is a part of the problem. No. They're all part of the problem. Yeah. And this is where the alternative media has made a huge inroad and impact on people's knowledge base as far as what's really, really occurring. I started the radio show in October 2010. 8 years ago, and we've now built that into an entire platform at davejanda.com. We have our YouTube channel, Operation Freedom. The names are important because there's some people that have ripped us off, taken our videos. So YouTube channel, Operation Freedom, davejanda.com. We have a public side where we have a lot of information we upload, and in a subscription side, which is 30 cents a day, where we have three extra shows a week, and they can always get the podcast 24/7. But we've developed this platform. Now, I must say, it has angered players within the deep state because the people we bring forward are people that are speaking about what's really occurring and how the deep state is truly trying to dismantle and has actually been fairly successful. We have to give them credit. They're our enemy, but they've been a successful enemy. Dismantle folks' freedoms and liberties and choices. And in fact, in many respects, have enslaved every American to this deep state system. And this is where the election of 2016 comes in. And, love or hate Donald Trump, my impression is the following based on my contacts providing me information, the contacts that I trusted and trust over the past 30 years. Is Trump is he a perfect guy? Not in any respect. No. And I think he'll probably be one of the first people to admit that. He has his issues. Right. And there are many things Donald Trump does that I disagree with and what he says, some things he says. However, this is what I've learned from my contacts about Trump. There's the Rothschild-Rockefeller axis of globalists that have been so detrimental to our financial system, that have been so detrimental, if you will, to the precious metals world. Sure. The pure manipulation, right? Mm-hmm. And they've been detrimental to every person's freedom and liberty. There are different sets of globalists, silos, if you will. Right. And Trump appears to be aligned with a different silo in the globalist syndicate, a silo that's more about freedom, more about not the destruction of sovereign borders, not the destruction of sovereign entities like the Rothschild-Rockefeller axis, of which puppets of the Rothschild-Rockefeller axis, I believe, are the Bushes, the Clintons, the Obamas, the Ryans, the Romneys, the McCains, the Pelosi's, the Schumers, all the household political names. You could pretty much put them in the silo of being middle-level puppets, including George Soros, of the Rothschild-Rockefeller axis. And then there's this other group and there's a number of silos, but this other silo that has come into power is the one of which Trump is kind of the most visible figure. And this silo is about reestablishment of, yes, make America great again, but also making sovereign countries sovereign again. Mm-hmm. Sure. And this is where we get into this nationalist discussion. Trump says I'm a nationalist, and you'll always tell who a globalist is, who's owned by the Rothschild-Rockefeller axis, because they'll come forward and they'll say, "Well, you're about white nationalism." No, nationalism, and Macron just went after Trump. And by the way, Macron's background, right? Mm-hmm. He was a former banker, and who did he work for? The Rothschilds. Yeah. Oh, okay. But just go back to another French leader, de Gaulle. Here's what de Gaulle said about nationalism. Quote, "He who does not love his mother more than other mothers, and his country more than other countries, loves neither his mother nor his country."
Yeah, de Gaulle was no joke. That guy was a real leader. I mean,
and he was a nationalist in a sense that he wasn't a racist. Right. That's what they try to paint you. He wasn't a racist. He wasn't a xenophobe. He wasn't look, being a nationalist means you are looking for the interests of your people, your citizens, your country. You're putting them foremost at the front part of the speech. That doesn't mean you declare war on the rest of the world. That doesn't mean if you and this is how the globalists want everybody to see the world.
Right.
and this is no matter what the issue, that it's all a zero-sum game. If you do well, everybody else loses.
Yeah.
Because the free market approach, a nationalist approach, is, look, if we do better, we lift the entire boat up. Right? So when folks come down on Trump as being a nationalist, I don't think that's fair.
Right.
Just because he might be looking out for the interests of Americans and America, United States of America, does not mean that it excludes the rest of the world. Right. But this is the globalist picture, and their tentacle, the main bought-off lamestream fake media, wants you wants to propagandize.
Sure.
So politically, we are in a situation where I believe we're in a civil war. Now, this civil war has been brewing behind the curtain for decades.
Right.
It has now come to the forefront starting in 2016. And I believe it's only going to get more visible, more overt, because as the globalist syndicate loses their control base, you are going to see them acting even more hysterically. You're going to see them acting out more.
Right.
And unfortunately, when you deal with globalists, and if you look at their track record, the Rothschild-Rockefeller axis, one of the cards in their business model focuses on chaos. The big chaos cards they play are financial destruction associated with war.
Yeah.
And I believe these are the cards the globalists want to play and are going to push to play to try to diffuse this nationalism that we see rearing its head, where people are saying, no, wait a minute, let's look out for our interests.
Right.
And I believe that many of the attacks we're seeing, such as the fake Russian dossier, which was bought and paid for by the Clinton campaign and the DNC, it was used to, I believe, illegally obtain surveillance warrants on members of Trump's team and Trump himself as a means of an insurance policy of taking down a duly elected president that was not a globalist.
Right.
Okay, so does Trump have globalist ties? Yes. Are they in the Rothschild-Rockefeller axis? I believe not.
Okay.
Are they tied to the globalist system that wants more harmony around the world and more sovereign entities being in place and each sovereign entity doing well on its own and lifting the whole boat? Yeah, I believe that's the part of the syndicate he's associated with.
So it essentially boils down to you are a free marketer. You're someone who believes not in crony capitalism, but in true capitalism. And people looking out for themselves and their national interests, that lifts all boats in general, as long as people are cooperating peacefully.
Absolutely. And I believe that capitalism has been infiltrated, if you will, by the globalists to create not free market capitalism, but crony capitalism, as you mentioned, which I believe is a tentacle of the globalist syndicate, if you will, the melding of big government with big business,
yes.
Right? Which really, my mom, the history teacher, used to teach me about systems very early in life. And, she said, when you have big government melding with big business, the name of that, Dave, is fascism.
Right, that's Italy.
Right, and that's right. Good old Mussolini, who, by the way, he's one of the fair-haired children, if you will, of the globalist syndicate.
Yeah, he's one of the biggest genocidal people of World War II, correct?